Hello, Natalie.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good.
So lovely to
So
see
happy to
you.
be here. Yes, good
Right?
morning. Yeah.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. So we're back in action here.
Yeah. Just chatting it up.
Um, it's really interesting because Natalie and I chat so much about non-duality. It just seems to come up over and over and over again. And when we have these chats, it's usually like I'm walking in the woods with my dog, and I'm like, oh, here we go. And I call her, and it's like, what about this? Blah, 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 blah. And she's like, blah, 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 blah. And it's so flowy and beautiful. And I wanted to capture the essence of some of our communication and just like a free flowy form because it's so pertinent and relative to everybody's daily life. And a lot of these things really go unnoticed. And because Natalie and I are very detail oriented and we like to pick everything apart.
That's
It's
just the naturalness of these characters. That's just how it
yeah,
goes. Yeah.
yeah. It seems like not that we've found anything special, but our thinking is very much aligned with each other and within the non-dual community. So we just wanted to express some of our thoughts that maybe it resonates, maybe it doesn't. So yeah. So Natalie, before we started, you read me off a beautiful poem-like expression of
Yes.
non-duality. And
Yeah.
maybe you can express some of that to just give some clarity of what non-duality is.
Okay, yeah. I'll probably just go ahead and read it because I
Yeah,
have no idea what I wrote.
why not?
But
Yeah.
um, the fun thing about when we chat at the end of it, we're like, what did we just say? What are we even talking about? Because it's
Hmm.
just so natural how it comes up and the thoughts and the words just and the flow of the conversation. And like you said, we, you know, we have similar thoughts. Yeah, we can't confirm, we don't need to. We don't, it's just that we flow well together. And a lot of the thoughts that you're having thoughts are the same here, so it's always fun to discuss that when you're not trying to explain what you mean every step of the way when someone already has kind of an understanding. Who knows how that
Yeah,
understanding comes up, but it shows up when we communicate together. So it's really nice to
I
have
know. And
that.
isn't it amazing? It's so beautiful to have that because it's
Yeah.
like when you're on this pathless path,
Yeah.
it's tough because you start to see the world so differently.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you start feeling like an alien or like, what is this? What's really going on? And
Right.
you start to question everything. And
Yeah.
like, we've been questioning it all, like literally, like,
Oh my gosh, so much like spotlighting. Wait, is that the me? Was that this? It was just like so contracted, like literally making everything so dead by trying to know it and understand it and
yes.
dissect it. And that was all just really natural and innocent. I mean, it's just beautiful the way it shows up like that. But that
Yeah.
the understanding that just arises, or that knowing that just arises, it's not actually leading to a better understanding or a knowing of more or everything. I mean,
Yeah.
to know what this is, you'd have to know what everything is. I mean, you can't.
Right.
And so it's fun when we chat because no, we're not trying to get to the bottom of anything. There's nothing to get to the bottom of. There is no bottom. There is no top. I
Yeah.
mean, the beginning,
Right.
the end, where does the origination of a thought or an emotion come? Who knows?
Yeah.
It's just there,
Yeah.
boom.
But
Yeah,
it's so
no
funny because
controlling
I'll
of
be,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's so funny because like I'll come upon something, I'm like, oh, wait a
Oh,
minute. And then you're like,
yes.
oh, yeah. And then we're like, oh, so that
Oh, it's
really was just that.
right.
It's
Yeah,
like
these
you
mini
don't even
these
cling
little
to your
revelations.
epiphanies.
Yes,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the little revelations, sure, they're great. And it's like, wow, oh my gosh, like everyone's opinion is just their opinion. It's not more meaningful or less meaningful. And the same goes for here,
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
opinions, these positions, whatever. I mean, they're actually utterly neutral. All
Right.
opinions, any
Yeah.
emotion, anything, and we think of it as a good or a bad emotion. This is right or wrong. It really is just neutrality showing up
Hmm.
as anger or sadness. And to
Right.
think that there's a way to control that, well, you'd have to get behind it to stop it before to do that. And how could you? It happens like that. There's no getting behind a thought
Yeah.
or emotion until it arises or appears.
Right.
Then there's maybe doing
Yeah.
something about it, but who knows? Maybe not. I mean, you just can't say anything with any degree of certainty. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we've always been as, the separate individual that's navigating this life. When there's
Right.
separation, when there's thoughts of, I'm doing this, that's fine. It's just a lot of responsibility for something that is really literally out of control. Like,
Hmm.
there isn't continuity. Things don't lead to
No.
another. And, it's like, yeah, you could say cause and effect, but I mean, that's just a story. It really is. Like, it really
Hmm.
isn't. These are all just things that we've made up, to explain what this is, but no one really needs to know what this is, because that need isn't really an actual need. It's just, because
Hmm.
there is no knowing of what this is. I mean, most of the questions, the childlike questions that come up when you're a child or when you're in a non-duality meeting, those are childlike questions, because it's like, really, I mean, once the emptiness of everything, this is kind of seen, and I don't know what sees that, but
Yeah.
like anything, what sees anything, when that's kind of recognized, I guess, or noticed, um, then it's kind of like, the confusion is the clarity, because there was always a confusion of, God, what is wrong with me? Why am I like this? Why can't I get it right?
Yeah.
And it's like there was never getting it right, because there isn't some future, there it's always whole and complete
Hmm.
already. There is no
Yes.
striving for something better, because this doesn't move. This just is stationary, and how it appears and how it shows up is just how it appears, how it shows up. Thoughts, emotions, words, the things you like, the things you dislike. I mean, who's deciding any of that? What do we really, I mean, the individual is powerless, but there's a feeling, like a false sense of, there's some power there and some control, because there's seeming choices. But why are we choosing what we choose? Do we really want to go into dissecting every little thing? Some people do. We did it for a long time. But
Yeah.
the futility of that it's not going to lead to actually any revelation that could stay or be maintained, because nothing's maintainable. Nothing's maintained,
Yeah.
ramble. I pretty much just said just now what I wrote in different words.
Yeah,
So
pretty much.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
I
was
won't
thinking
read it
that.
at this point. Yeah.
You didn't even need the
Those
paper.
thoughts are still coming up. It's just like
And
falls
you see
like
how it
rain.
just flows out so naturally,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
when you talk,
It's
like everybody, it's just flowing naturally.
it's always,
Although,
yes,
the
unscripted.
character will claim it as my
Yes.
communication, my
Right.
thoughts, my
Yes.
when it's just naturally occurring and it goes so
Yeah.
unnoticed, right?
Yeah. It really does go unnoticed,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there isn't, you're not going, no one's going to ever notice it. Do you know what I mean? There
Hmm.
isn't someone who could notice it before it happened. I mean, you won't know anything
Yeah.
or notice anything until it happens, and then it's
Yeah,
after the
yeah, yeah.
fact. That's the
Yeah.
individual story. It's
But
always
it's
a day late and a dollar
a
short, but
day
it's
late.
perfect.
That's it.
It's
Yeah,
perfect
and
though. I mean, that's just
yeah,
how it
it is.
is.
But it's so funny because we've chatted about, like, I've been in situations in the past, and I've said things and then going back and be like, why the hell would I even say that? Do I even think that way? Where'd that come
Right.
from? But it's
Yeah.
so like unconscious most
It's
of the
just natural.
just
Yes. It
yeah,
just comes
yeah.
out.
It just comes
Yeah.
out. But then, like, society around you says, well, you should have said this. You need to do
Yes.
this. And then you start
Yeah.
going, well, what's wrong with me that I didn't
Yes.
do it that way? And then you
Right.
start getting into all the self-help, and somebody
Yeah.
says, I found the solution. So you need to buy this book and do it
Right.
this way.
Yes.
And, I'm a spiritual leader. And if you just be with the breath, be here now, do it this
Can you be
way.
aware of your awareness? Come on, Mia, be aware of
I
your awareness.
know.
Wouldn't you have to be
Yeah.
aware of everything to be able to control the awareness? I mean, how
I
can
know
I
I
be
can't control
aware of,
everything around. Right.
right? I mean, I
Yeah.
can't be aware of something I'm not aware of. I mean, that makes no sense. But giving someone
Yeah.
this false idea, and that's
Yeah.
fine. I mean, it's just innocently coming up.
Hmm.
But to teach someone that they could be aware of everything and maintain something is hogwash. I mean, and I think
Yeah.
once you read a spiritual person or a religious leader, and then later you see, oh gosh, well, that didn't work the way it was supposed to, then maybe you go to a different spiritual path. Maybe you go to self-help. And all these things are trying to control something that is uncontrollable, trying to
Mm.
box in
Beautiful.
something that no, I mean, how can you box something in that you don't even know what it is? Like, I mean,
Or where
we don't even know what
where
we're
you are
dealing with.
even. Like
Right.
we
Where
don't
are
even know where
we?
we are.
Sure. We don't, I mean, what is this? Where is this?
Yeah.
Anything
Yeah.
that we know about this is just what's been told, what's been said. I mean, we're fuzzy two-legged animals walking around using words instead of, maybe a bird sound or a dog sound. But ultimately, we're not figuring anything out. It's just what we do. We talk about, some are interested in sports, some are interested in whatever. It's just random. Like, it's so random,
Hmm.
everything that appears. It's like, we're walking around like acting, well, I mean, we're not acting, but we're walking around doing natural things, normal things. Yet look around like, I mean, where is this? What is this? What are these things other
Yeah.
than what they are, than what we've been told? I mean, a rock is a
Yeah.
rock. I don't know. I mean, there's not a looking behind so much, that looking
Right.
behind
Needing
to
to
figure
know what it
out.
is because
Yeah,
you'll never know. Like
it's
who would know?
unknowable.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's amazing the audacity of some characters. Like it just blows my mind.
yeah,
Um, and it's so constricting and contracting. And like it's interesting because
yeah,
at this point I find myself gravitating away from people who are really deep into knowing
yes,
because it feels so constricting to the person. And
yeah.
there's Natalie, there's got to be a lot of suffering there.
Oh
Eh,
yeah. I
You
mean,
know,
because there's so much to uphold when you actually,
right.
you think you're in a body controlling everything, your thoughts, emotions. I mean, well, first off, we've discovered, not really, but it's we there's no knowing of how anything's going to show up because it just appears. So when you're talking to someone and maybe they say something that you don't agree with, um to think that I shouldn't, yes, I'm polite, I'm not going to fly off the handle at someone. Possibly, maybe I might, but if there is like a, ew, what, why do you believe that? Oh, well, I mean, it's not like I need to really defend a position here, because any position I can't really take ownership of. I can't,
See, that's so
I can't really
beautiful.
claim that position.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
it's and that is
That's
very
so
tight and
open.
constricting when you
Yeah,
feel this need to protect and defend,
yeah,
um anything, the way you acted that day or the things you said. Sure,
yeah.
apologies are natural. I'm not, no one would
Right.
suggest don't apologize. It's just that when you put that extra added, which is what the separate individual does, you shouldn't
Yeah,
have. Why? It's like, go ahead and tell yourself a story. Any will do, because it's gone. It's over. It's done with.
yeah,
I mean, there's
yeah.
just, here comes another appearance, another, endless appearances, endless,
Yes.
no beginning
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Turtles all the way down.
all the way.
Um, it's just, yeah, there's nothing to
Yeah.
cling to anymore. And that can be
No.
daunting,
Oh,
but it
yeah.
also is so beautiful in a sense that it's so freeing at the same
Yes.
time. It's
Yes.
like this,
Yeah.
whoa, wait, oh, oh,
Yeah.
you
Now,
go through these ranges
do
of,
you remember,
yeah,
that feeling of like, I mean, like you're literally grasping. It feels like you're just clawing and handfuls of just dirt and there's nowhere to go and
yeah,
nothing's really happening. I mean, come on, what's happening? Nothing. You're sitting there and some image of like, oh my God, what I gotta get it. What are they talking about? I gotta figure it out.
yes,
What can I
yeah,
do? What
yeah,
Dude, you're not going to do anything. That's what's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing ever did happen. I mean, what's going on anyway? Walking around, talking, eating. I mean, all the stuff.
yeah,
But I mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
no different than the birds out there flying around, going from tree to tree,
yeah,
taking a nap, eating. I
yeah, yeah,
mean, there's such an importance that
yeah,
humans, because we speak or what, and there's brains or whatever. I mean, all of
brains
it's
or
just
whatever.
made. It's just made up words that we've said, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Naming is just naming. Where did the names come from? Where did language start from? I mean,
yeah.
I, I was a teacher and
Mhm.
I was interested in where language and the alphabet came from. And I looked it up. There is like, there's no one that really knows any of that. So it's
Yeah,
like, I mean, the past is here. The past isn't somewhere else. It's not
yeah,
the thought of it being a fixture somewhere else where all this stuff happened there and more stuff will happen in front of. That's just kind of like, I mean, that's just what was told, that's how we
yeah.
explain things.
Well, and that's the
But,
thing is
and there's not
it's
a problem with that. It's just that
yeah,
when there's thoughts that I'm separate and I have to get this right or wrong, it's like, okay, cool. But you're not going to, there isn't a move. You've never moved. You're not going to make a right or wrong move. So anything that appears, anything that happens, it's just happening. It's just appearing. It's not like
yeah,
there's a responsible one for making something appear or making something be the way
yeah,
it is. How could they? How could you as an
yeah,
individual, a person? Well, I mean, what do
yeah.
you think you're doing here?
But the thing is, if someone doesn't see that, it can be very
No, yes.
challenging going
Oh,
through life.
exactly.
So that's,
Yes.
where I feel
Yes.
like expressing this, showing that there's another way of being,
Yeah.
potentially
Yes, and
is
it's not a way of being that could be maintained. It's just that, I mean, there's no knowing of what could appear.
right. There's
So
almost, but
that
there's a freedom
constriction,
in
yes. Oh,
not
for sure.
knowing because there's an
Yes.
openness to
Yes.
explore, to be curious, to
Yeah.
create, like all these things free up where it
Yes.
feels like, it's interesting because if I think in the past, I keep going past, but
Yeah,
um
right.
it, I created things for a sense of feeling important.
Yeah.
Or I
Yeah.
would create, like even with photography, I think, okay, what's popular on the market? What would give me likes? What would
Okay.
people want to see? Where would I
Right.
fit into society?
Yeah.
And like now it's just like it doesn't matter. You create for the sake
Right.
of creation. What's coming, what's moving through you is just coming
Right.
out there versus thinking that it had to be something specific to fit in with a mold. And so
Right.
that in itself feels freeing,
It
you know.
is freeing. It's maybe, I wouldn't say it's better. I would say it's different as
Hmm.
far as like, um, yeah, sure, the thoughts, emotions, all that still come up, obviously. I mean, nothing changes. It's just
Yeah.
that there is a real relaxation when you, I mean, I don't take responsibility for something I don't um it's not that I won't take responsibility. If I break something, I'm going to take I did that, it's that the responsibility to uphold, upkeep, you
Yeah.
really can't say anything about it, because even talking about it like this, yeah, we're not trying to do anything. We're not trying to say there's any way that you
Mm-hmm.
could control or navigate. No, it's quite the opposite. It's a relaxation that this is all just happening. I mean,
Yeah.
if those thoughts are there, that this is all just happening, I don't see um a me that is controlling, that's separate from life. I don't see that. I
Yeah.
And that's just how it is here. It's not,
Yeah.
look, non-duality, non-separation. I mean, that's also a story. It is a total story.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is just a story, but the relaxation, I feel like, comes with that kind of it's all hands off. I mean, and when that
Yeah.
scene that there's not someone in there actually being able to do anything, um, you're kind of just like left with whatever's happening. I mean, and that's what it's always been.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
you saying I took photography and I tried to be this way and fit into a mold. Yeah, I did that too. I mean, my whole life, I've been a clumsy kind of character. I'm tall. I drop things. I spill things. I lose things. I mean, to be around me is either like a comedy show, if you're kind of a funny person, and if you're a more serious character, it's gonna be like, wow, this person is. I don't even get this person at all. What's going on? So just unorganized and whatever. How did they get through this day? And honestly, I ask myself that quite often. Why naked? What? I mean, it just seems to happen at this point. But memories are memories, and there's thoughts that I've always been thinking, what was wrong with me? Why was I
Yeah.
why can't I get it right? Everyone, come on, ever since I was a kid, come on, that's what you get for thinking, you knucklehead, da da da, that kind of stuff. And I felt so like separate, so responsible for everything that I was doing, and thinking there was a right or wrong way. And
Right.
really now it's just kind of like, well, yeah, there's no right or wrong way. But if someone thinks you're doing something right, they think you're doing something right. If they think you're doing something wrong, they think that it's not actually right or wrong. And so this character seems way more free, than thoughts of how I used to be. That's just,
Well,
it's a
it's
memory,
interesting just, in chatting with you these past couple months, it's appearingly a big change that I see because yeah, there's no path and yet there's the appearance of a path.
Yeah.
And there's an appearance of change within the character where
Right.
it's
Yeah.
like, almost like the contractions are, and I don't even know when I say contractions, like that's still another label, but it's just like,
Yeah. But that
um,
tightness,
yeah,
you
it's
know?
like I've seen within you just from observing, like late from a few labels of things into completely, oh, I don't really know. I just, and it's like almost surrendering to everything and allowing it to pass,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, because that striving for something elsewhere
mhm,
doesn't really come up, because elsewhere, there is no elsewhere. There, over there, that I thought was there is actually here. Here is there.
yes.
There isn't any difference. And so that striving to be accepted is already accepted, even in the rejecting. It's
It's
accepted,
even
it's
in the
appearing.
rejection. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So,
that's a good point though that like I don't think a lot of people see is that it's also in the rejection.
right.
It's in everything. It's
But,
uncontrollable and it's not personal towards you. That's a biggie
oh,
because
yeah,
we
it
take
does seem
everything
individual.
really,
Yes.
we take things very, very personal as
Yes.
human
Yes.
beings. But
Yeah.
you think about it like, why is somebody judging you a specific way? Well, it's like, who knows their upbringing, their childhood traumas, the way they've
Right.
been conditioned, the
Yes.
programming. all
where
of
they
that.
lived, who they, and all of that, none of that they decided. Like they didn't decide who
Yeah.
they were born to, where they were born, the people
Yeah.
that raised them. I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
They're just,
Yeah.
it's
It's so
all out of their
innocently
control.
happening, even
Innocent.
though it doesn't
Yes.
feel it at the
Right.
time. You're just like, why can't you
Yes.
see this? Right? Why are
Yes.
you do-" And then it becomes like guilt and shame and
Yeah.
blame, and
Yes.
then going to a therapist to work out why you feel these feelings. Oh my God, I can't feel these
Right.
feelings. And then
We can't
spirituality
have
tells you you're
this. We
not allowed to
cannot
feel
have
those
these
feelings.
feelings. No.
No, you have to be
Why are you
light and
having those
love.
thoughts, those terrible thoughts? What are you
Do
doing?
your
It's like, how
MDMA
the
and
hell do I
mushrooms to
know?
stay high, you have to
Yeah,
maintain
come
this
on. You
love, you
need the
got to be
plant
like that.
medicine. Yes, you need the plant medicine to
Only
see
if you
this
take plant
always.
medicine.
It's only this, only plant medicine. That is
Forget the
it.
people who
And
aren't
then
able to
it's
take
Wizard
plant
of Oz
medicine.
and Alice in Wonderland
Oh my God.
on drugs. I mean, that's what's going on here. This is what we're doing. We're explaining shit on top of shit. I'm sorry. I mean, it's just all, it's only BS. So there's no BS. It's okay. I mean, let people, they're just going to talk. It's like that bird out there. It just keeps chirping. I mean, so, some people just talk, talk, talk. I'm one of them. I love to talk. I could talk about anything.
No.
It's a response. Ask me something. I don't know. Even if I don't know about it, something's probably going to tumble out of this mouth here. I'm telling you.
I'm sure of it.
But yeah, all the stories,
Yeah.
all the stories of gurus and enlightenment
Yeah.
and getting, it's all somewhere else. It's all a
Right.
promise of, and it hurts. I heard someone, I don't remember
Mhm.
who it was. It was, I can't remember. I have no clue, but, and it really rung home. You can only see heaven when you're alive. I mean, in this aliveness, there's heaven and hell. I mean, you can't,
Yes.
heaven later, that the promise of enlightenment or heaven somewhere else is ludicrous, because how could
Yeah.
anyone know there's somewhere else or something else other than this? And I mean, this includes it all, you know?
Yeah.
It's just that thoughts of somewhere else are just thoughts of somewhere else. It's not an actual place. You know what I mean? It's just a thought of somewhere else. Everything
Hmm.
is just what it is exactly. It's not like, you know, these thoughts of enlightenment and all of this keeping good in your heart. Sure. I mean, people try to be good, right? I mean, most people would
Well,
say,
it's
I
more
try to be
pleasurable
good. Yeah, it's
to
more
have
pleasurable
positive
to,
interactions, which is
yes,
common sense.
yes, but
So
think
like,
about it. If you are in a bad mood and you had a big disaster at work and you're driving home and someone cuts you off, even though you say I try to be a good person, who knows? You might scream someone out the window or lay on your horn.
well,
And then the like, why did I do that? I shouldn't have done that. Sure, I shouldn't have done
yeah,
that. But I did. It doesn't change anything. In
yeah,
that hardcore, like, people get down on themselves with all the dogma and the um,
yeah.
way I should be so I could get this or be this way so people accept me. That, like,
Hmm.
literally makes you think, I can control my thoughts. I shouldn't have done that. I can control these actions. I shouldn't
Yeah.
have laid on my horn. And it's like, well, sure, I shouldn't have, but I did. It's so spontaneous. Even the thought
Hmm.
that I go to lay on my horn and I don't, I pull away. I mean, which is better? Which is more right or wrong? It's anyone's opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to be unique for every individual.
Well, and that can be the scary part for people is like, oh, I really don't have the control that I thought over my emotions or
Yeah,
how I'm expressing because it's
right.
so quick and instantaneous,
Yes.
and that we have the
Yes.
capacity for good and we have the
Yes.
capacity for bad. We have both within
Yes.
us. And so
Yeah.
even like what you're
Well,
judging in another, you have the capacity to do. It's just not
yeah.
recognized.
Right.
Maybe
At
we want
that
to
I
push away
mean,
these emotions or these thoughts that it
yes.
could,
Yes.
that you have the capacity. But I think
Yes.
that's where a lot of empathy comes as well, to see
Right.
that we all have these expressions. We're not separate. Like this is
Yeah.
wonkier than you could imagine because it's not this one
Right.
path to light and love that we
No.
project or imagine it to be within
Right.
a collective society. It's so chaotic and so random and so
Yes.
just, you know here.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
can't box it. You just can't box it into one
No.
way or another. And I think a lot of people are trying
No.
to box
Yeah. And you know what? Even that trying to box it, I mean, it's uncomfortable, but like, I mean, literally, I try to, you know how memory just is, it's either there or it's not. It's either available or it's unavailable. And
Yes.
what is that? Like, I want to remember something, but I can't. I mean, the I want to
Mhm.
remember something is just as out of control as I can't, you know. And then
Mhm.
have you ever
Yeah.
like been looking for something and you finally just give up and then you find it just shows up and you're like, I just looked there. Oh my gosh. That's kind of like
Yeah.
what it's like because
Yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, no one's doing any of this, but all of a sudden it's like that relaxation comes up more and more and more until it's like
Hmm.
there's just no one. I mean, it's just relaxing into whatever, even if you're screaming.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
this utter neutrality that is always there. I mean, it's
Yeah.
indescribable. You can't say a thing about it because
Right.
it's empty. It's neutral. It's not. I mean, that's everything. It's just
Yeah.
that these opposites seem like actual opposites, but there are no opposites because you can't have
Yeah.
light without the knowing of dark, or not knowing, but you know what I
Right.
mean.
Well, you need
You can't have
duality to
any.
have this play,
Yes, to have this
And
play.
so,
Yeah.
um,
And it's just like, you know, thoughts that I'm separate doing it or thoughts that I'm not separate. Um, those are all just thoughts, even the thoughts of those are just the thoughts that I'm separate or not. You know, there
yeah.
isn't really anything to say about this because what is, I mean, separation means so many different things that, I mean, every individual will have a different meaning of what separation is, you know.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
separation is in, there's a bunch of parts that aren't separated, they're whole, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's just this everything. The only thing is it's just empty. I mean, it's empty, it's appearing, I mean, from where? That's just unanswerable. Where anything
Hmm.
comes from. I mean, anything at all. But
Hmm.
the beauty of it is that did seem scary. That seemed like, oh my God, at a point, it seemed like I'm terrified. Like, I don't know what anything is. I have no idea what anything is. And then it just
Yeah.
kind of was like, but that's not necessary. No, I mean, other than what it is or what it appears to be, that's all that could ever be known about it. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, there's no real
Yeah.
understanding or knowing. It just
Yeah.
arises
And that's
or
how
it
it always
doesn't.
was,
Or
so
yes, it's
when we get
already
freaked
been
out
that
and think
way.
we're
Yeah.
losing our
Yes.
mind and we think we're going insane through this, but this is how
Uh-huh.
it always was. So it's like
Yes.
you kind of get back
Oh,
to balance because it's like,
yes.
oh, well, okay, I
Oh,
can see this
wow.
is,
Oh,
but it can feel like
it can feel
uh
terrifying.
it can
Oh
feel
my God.
terrifying. Like, yeah, it can feel very,
Yeah.
it's funny,
Because
like,
everything is uprooted, like everything you thought
yeah,
was the way it was. Yeah, it
yeah,
is that way, but it's
yeah,
not.
yeah,
But we don't
yeah,
know
like,
how it is. It's just the way it appears. There's not like,
yeah,
ooh, I uncovered something and I figured something out. No, 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 not at all. It's like, oh, there's not, I mean, this is all just randomly happening. And so it's like, I mean, there's just that relaxation of God only knows what's going to appear next. I mean, it's almost like a curiosity, like a quiet curiosity, like, wow, I
hmm,
mean, who knows?
yeah,
Who knows?
yeah. And and the stories are beautiful to me because that's
Mm-hmm.
what we have to go off of. That's the like all these expressions, all
Well,
these
that's the
stories.
thing. The appearance only has the story, and they don't even
Yeah,
have the story because
this
you know
is
what I
another
mean?
story too. You know
Yes,
what I'm saying?
yes,
But it's like, I'm learning to appreciate the stories because they're
yes,
so rich and so
they
full
are.
and so freaking full on, where it's like suffering is full on suffering,
Yes, yeah, yeah.
happiness full on, like
Oh my
it,
God.
it it's weird
Yeah, it's
because
like
it's like,
you're not trying, there's not a push, something isn't pushing away. There isn't like something,
yeah,
who knows what that resistance was? I don't know. I have no clue. But it seems
Yeah.
like less resistance because
Towards
I don't know why. I
emotionality.
can't even say why.
Yeah.
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 Just,
Yeah. But it's also interesting too, because it's almost like an unfolding of emotions. For me here, it was
yeah.
like feeling into things deeper and like, oh God, the depths of how things can go. It's
I mean,
unlimited.
it's like
It's
intricate, like the petals of a flower and the little pollen
unlimited.
and all that. It's
Yeah. Like what you can
intricate.
feel, like the empathy, like even like
Yeah.
sitting with some patience and just feeling the depths of the empathy. It's gotten
Yeah.
deeper and it's just like, I think like before I would say, not that there's a before and after in speaking and story,
Right.
but
Yes. But
pertinent to this story,
yeah.
it seems like there was like a stopping point of emotion, and now it's like feeling into things fully, like the expressions, and it's
Yeah.
actually beautiful, where before it was seen as and now it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is so like a curiosity around it, like, oh,
Right.
this is a new feeling, oh, this is a deep feeling, there's just a lot of curiosity around it.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
is. I mean, yeah, and it's just it's like, when you just sit there and it's just completely silence, like I'm right now in a house alone and um
Yeah.
it's just you look around and maybe there's something that shouldn't, maybe there's a speck of dirt or some dog toys over there or whatever, but it's just like the beauty of a home that's lived in, rather than
Hmm.
coming in and thinking, oh my God, it's disgusting. Look at this. There's toys there that,
Yeah.
and no one can decide whether they're going to, and that's the whole
Yeah. Yeah.
spiritual shtick and the guilt shtick of, wow, you can't just look at this room as a beautiful lived in room. You have to say there's toys and dishes, oh, well, if one day I walk in and there's toys and dishes and I'm mad about it, I'm mad about it. If another day I walk in and I'm just like,
Yeah.
wow, look at all this dust and the way the sunlight hits it. Isn't it beautiful? I mean,
Yeah.
instead of thinking I need to clean it, it just shows up how it shows up, you know.
That's it.
And
Yeah.
it's always been that way. It's always been like this. It's always been this.
Always.
Always. There was just such a
Always.
responsibility there was a feeling of responsibility
Right. Because
that I
before you might have
shouldn't
you might
be
have
mad.
criticized you might have
Yeah.
criticized yourself and be like, why did I walk in and I'm mad at the dishes and the
Yes. 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 And now it's
yeah.
like, well, some days I'm mad about some things and other days I'm not. Some days I
Yes.
like this, some days I don't.
Yeah.
Who knows why?
Yeah.
I mean, because it shows up
Yeah.
how it shows up. However
Yeah.
it is, you know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just it is it's all of it. It's sad, it's beautiful, it's horrible, it's wonderful, it's all the things. I mean, and there are no
Hmm.
things. It's just how it shows up, how it appears. And
Yeah.
like we always say, what did we just say? We didn't solve anything, but it's just the beauty of having a conversation with a friend about
Hmm.
nothing and about
Hmm.
everything, or having a conversation with a friend about a movie you just saw, or a person that's just passed away, talking to their family members, all the stuff. It's just
Hmm.
there's just
Life thing.
this
Just doing
lifing.
its
Yeah,
thing.
that's all it
Yeah.
is. It's doing its thing. Yeah. And,
Yeah.
we just so happen to like talking about this. I, whatever, for whatever reason.
I mean, it's a bizarre thing because I know, like,
Yeah.
for you and for me, we never expected to be talking about this,
Right. I
with our
know.
backgrounds and
Like,
our upbringing. Like, how did we even get
yeah.
here talking about this? It's
Right.
so
It's
bizarre.
unbelievable because you
Yeah.
know what? It's like, uh, being raised in a Christian home, not ultra tight and constricting, but Christian upbringing of sin and right and wrong and a God watching over you. I mean, some may say, wow, you've lost your faith. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, that faith was never mine to begin with. It just
Yeah.
appeared and then it just stopped appearing like everything else. I mean,
Yeah.
we can't control the appearance of things. And so when non duality, whatever that is, came, yeah, came into view, for whatever reason, it just something drew this character
Yeah.
in, drew me in like there was no tomorrow. And I couldn't
Yeah.
stop listening to it for several months. And
Yeah.
then started talking about it rather quickly. So it's pretty funny how that worked out.
Yeah. And I
We
also
just like to
love,
talk.
I know, and I love your expression as free flowy because within, the non-duality community, it can be very direct, but I do like that directness
Yes,
for a
I
seeker.
love it. Yeah.
But in the same aspect, it kind of like restricts you from your natural expression to speaking very
Yeah.
like
Well,
succinct
I
and
feel like that is when the individual is thinking, it's a misunderstanding that the individual, and we talked about this months back when we were like,
yeah.
"Oh, well, we're so constricted. This is ridiculous. No one can
Mhm.
dictate." And that was like, well, yeah, no crap, because, you know, that constriction and all of that is just happening, but it's like a misunderstanding because it's like the individual trying to apply non-separation to
Right.
what's already not separate. And when you're
Yeah.
trying to apply that non-separation thing, like, well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's that's separation. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not, but you know what I mean? It's a feeling of
Yeah. Yeah.
separate controlling. I'm going to control my lingo to please these others when
Right.
I don't even know what these others really are. I mean, other than people, you know. And I'm pretty clueless, and I think pretty much all people and everything that appears is clueless. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
it's
freeing
just
right there.
that is, I mean,
Everybody's
I
clueless.
don't
You're
have, I mean, come
clueless.
on, like, how am I going to hold anyone's feet to the fire? Like, sure, if my kids do something, I might hold their feet to the fire and say, pick that up. But I mean, when we're talking about a person, the naturalness of the way the character is, like maybe they're a
Mhm.
messy one or whatever. I mean, do I really need to correct them and you shouldn't and all that? I mean, I've never been that way anyway. I've always been kind of like, just kind of happy go lucky in that. And I feel like
Yeah.
that I was judged, the character, the separate character was judged in kind of a way like, yeah, you're just, you need to get it together kind of thing. And so I don't really like, I really didn't ever have like any way I was trying to make someone be, except there were
Mhm.
thoughts that it needed to be that way. Even though I could never make someone be a certain way, those
Right.
thoughts seem to really constrict, like, why aren't they doing what I want them to do? Why aren't they being the way they should be? This is the right way, that's the wrong way.
Mhm.
And once that kind of just is seen for what it is, that there isn't really a right or a wrong way, it's just how the person likes it, you know
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. I can't
Yeah.
really say how anyone should be anymore. I can,
Yeah.
but I can't take it seriously. I don't even know what I just said. Oh
Beautiful,
my.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing all this, the fact that we're able to communicate with each other and chat about this. And
Yes, without having to explain every little, like, well,
yeah.
no, I didn't. I mean, well, when you're first
Hmm.
getting into this whole stuff, you
Yeah.
like you were just mentioning, you just get
Yeah.
really contracted and like trying to like wound up, and uh it's just this doing its thing.
Just this.
Just this.
On that note,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's been really fun chatting about this, and Natalie and I are talking about doing more chats, getting into more topics, um, potentially having group meetings where we can really feed off of each other and talk about life experiences and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And
Why
yeah.
not? Yeah. I mean, it's awesome. We love to talk. If you guys like to talk, you'll join us.
Beautiful.
All
All right. Well, thank you
right.
everybody for tuning in and
Thanks,
listening to
guys.
us chit chat. Yeah, we'll catch you on the next episode.
See ya.